The Spotlight on America team has been exposing the hazards of lead and toxic heavy metals in baby food for years.
Now, after repeated calls for action, the FDA has set guidelines for lead in baby food.
But it's not the end for a fight for food safety, now being spearheaded by lawmakers and pediatricians. Lisa Fletcher reports.
We've taken lead out of gas, paint, and water because it's toxic and damages our bodies and brains. But it hasn't universally been taken out of baby food, arguably the most dangerous place for heavy metals. After a bombshell congressional report found extremely high amounts of lead in legacy brand baby foods in 2021, the FDA promised to rein it in. Nearly 4 years later, the only action, released just this year, is a voluntary guideline for industry for lead in baby food.
It is very dissatisfying. And the idea that FDA is only now able to come up with one voluntary standard after 4 years of work is really a testament to how broken our food system is.
Sarah Sorsher is the Director of Regulatory Affairs at the Center for Science and the Public Interest.
What makes it so hard to come up with these standards?
Unfortunately, for a lot of American politicians, regulation has almost become like a dirty word. And so it's become harder and harder for federal regulators to come out with new safeguards.
The non-binding guideline caps lead at 10 parts per billion for most types of baby food. For context, in 2021, a congressional investigation found baby foods containing lead as high as 880 parts per billion. With 4 years to prepare, experts say most baby foods are already in compliance with the FDA's new guideline. But Sorsher warns this is no time to let your guard down.
A lot of people look at these new standards and think that the job is finished, but it's really only just starting.
The limits do not include popular items like teething biscuits or snack puffs, known to contain high levels of lead.
What was your reaction when you heard that they set these guidelines?
It's just too little too late.
U.S. Representative Raja Krishnamurthy led the 2021 congressional investigation that exposed industry's neglect and the FDA's lack of action. He says 4 years for voluntary guidelines wasn't worth the wait.
I'm a little disappointed. It's just guidance. It doesn't cover all baby foods. It feels like they didn't get the memo that there's a lot of other carcinogens and neurotoxins out there that we need to police, such as cadmium, mercury, and arsenic.
And while the FDA hasn't been as aggressive as many had hoped, neither has Congress. This year, Krishnamurthy will introduce the Baby Food Safety Act for the third time, with prior attempts derailed by industry's influence with some elected officials.
What specifically, if you can, has been holding this up?
A lot of these food conglomerates definitely have power within Congress, and they have the power to potentially stop committee action. And I know for a fact, when I first started this investigation, there were a lot of different companies that were just not happy with us shining a light, let alone trying to pursue legislation on it.
If Krishnamurthy gets his way, there will be only mandatory standards with limits for all heavy metals in all food for babies, with consequences for those who do not comply.
We're not going anywhere because this is something that's just too important to ignore.
For Spotlight on America, I'm Lisa Fletcher.
Officials say the FDA promised draft guidance for cadmium and arsenic by the end of last year, but at this time, the agency's deadline is set for sometime in 2025.